The pink box donut experience was amazing, but I wanted to try the chain version while in California. So let's get into everything I tried at WINCHELL'S Donuts, and let's break it all down with a deep analysis. And that's starting right now. I packed this Anaheim, California donut adventure with 2 stops. First, it was Granny's, the mom and pop shop with the pink box. And now WINCHELL'S Donut House, the West Coast's largest donut chain with over 170 locations in 6 states and internationally. For this video, I picked 6 donuts to try at WINCHELL'S, the home of the warm and fresh donut. Let's take a look at each and provide breakdown and analysis to see if the chain experience of the West Coast donut shop stacks up. Now, in contrast to Granny's, WINCHELL'S is definitely your chain version of this donut experience. And I say that because the menus are much more modern. You can tell there's a lot more going on in the back as far as like coordination. There's a lot of coffee makers and a lot of other options as far as the menu goes. Nice and pictorial, whereas Granny's had a lot more of that mom and pop shop feel. As far as what to order at WINCHELL'S, it was a lot busier there. And I was trying to keep straight in my head what I had gotten at Granny's to make sure what I got here was an apples to apples comparison. And I forgot all about that buttermilk donut, but I noticed that WINCHELL'S did end up having something that was similar, although round. And it seems that's just what their old-fashioned donut looked like. So it was kind of unremarkable in terms of the visual compared to what Granny's had. But as far as the other 5 donuts, I did get donuts that were apples to something that I had tried at Granny's. And the purpose of this video is not going to be to compare them to each other. I want to talk about what I had at WINCHELL'S. As a broad overview, I'll say even though this seemed like more of a chain experience, I didn't notice a dip in quality, which was extremely reassuring. So first up at WINCHELL'S, the glazed round. Now this here should be the benchmark. This is what all yeasted donuts should be measured against. And I will say the glazed round at WINCHELL'S was actually really tall. Definitely one of those things that you have to have a really big jaw to get through. And the glaze at WINCHELL's actually reminds me quite a lot of Krispy Kreme, where it kind of shatters just around where you bite and doesn't kind of fall off in bigger shards. All of that to say, I absolutely loved it. This was a great donut, very tasty, a lot of yeast flavor in there, pretty amazing. Next up, the chocolate glazed long twist. Now I mentioned in the previous video this wouldn't be the style that I would order just because that twist makes me a little bit scared that it wouldn't be cooked in the middle there. But honestly, I think that's a concern that's only in my head because both times I tried that, I didn't observe that at all. In fact, the more I think about it, it seems more likely actually that if you're frying these, the oil can get into those cracks a little better. So maybe it was just an irrational fear. But the one thing I will say at WINCHELL'S, this chocolate glaze is a lot darker than I've seen. So already we had Granny's, which was a lot lighter than what I've seen in the past. Now we have WINCHELL'S, which is darker than what I've seen in the past. And you could see to just miles apart, these 2 places are using completely different cocoa powders, but end up with an end product that is amazing in both cases. The chocolate flavor here was nice and deep. If I had to say, it kind of reminded me of like an Oreo cookie, which I guess makes sense because they could be using that kind of same black cocoa they use in an Oreo cookie. But it was very rich, and it seemed like it wasn't applied as much as other chocolate glazed donuts I've had in the past, including Granny's. Again, not that this is supposed to be a comparison to that, but it's pretty amazing with as little glaze as what was on there that it was such a rich flavor. I think that's really testament to the fact of using quality ingredients and just mass production. WINCHELL'S has places all over California, so they gotta be on top of things as far as production goes. Boston cream here at WINCHELL'S was a little bit strange, and the reason I say that, it didn't seem overly stuffed with the custard, and for some reason it was kind of poking out the bottom, but overall it didn't seem like there was a lot in there. It seemed like it was just too messy for its own good, and I'm not trying to be overly critical, but this is probably just a misfire in terms of execution. When they were filling the donut, they probably missed the hole by like maybe 2 millimeters. When you're trying to get that donut onto the pump to get those custards in there, because of the fact that the donut is at its most narrow at that point, if you're off by just a little, you're gonna ruin the donut. I think that's what happened here. But as far as flavors, once you got through that whole thing and you got a bite that had everything in it in the right proportions, it was very good. So I guess I'm being overly critical, but isn't that what we do here? Here's where I'm just gonna jump out and admit I messed up. Under all the pressure, I forgot that I was looking for a specialty donut for the last spot, and I buckled and ended up with just a chocolate glazed. Putting it together, it was just yeast donut with the chocolate glaze on top. This was neither good nor bad. It was just a little bit of a taste of my anxiety medicine to say that maybe I gotta take a little more time when I'm going through this ordering and not feel so pressured. But a very good donut. At WINCHELL'S, I did try the maple glazed bar, and the maple here was on the nice and thick side, and it hardened nicely to the top of that donut. As an East Coaster where maple gets used quite a lot, having it here on a donut was amazing, and WINCHELL'S does this very good. Now you know I had to try the powdered lemon at WINCHELL'S as well, and this one here was a little bit visually striking because it did have a little bit of powder on top, and when I say a little bit, it was a pretty light dusting, which made me happy because I hate those donuts that are caked in powdered sugar to the point where you're almost afraid to take a bite out of it. So that was really cool. And then being filled with that lemon filling, you can tell this is made at scale. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but the balance of the amount of donut to the amount of filling filling to the amount of powdered sugar on the outside. I thought this was a pretty incredible donut, and I gotta hand it to Winchell's. This was my favorite donut of the day, and that's across the 2 donut shops. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you find yourself in one of these West Coast donut shops, don't sleep on the powdered lemon. So like I said, we had gotten to Winchell's just after the sun came up after visiting a different donut shop, and what was really cool to see, now I mentioned that Winchell's was pretty busy when we got there, it was a good balance of people who clearly were on their way to work, and people from the neighborhood. So my overall impression of Winchell's is that it's a good place within the neighborhood that it was in, this being Anaheim, California, and clearly they're doing a good job serving their community. But for the purpose of what we're doing here, pretty amazing donuts, and I'm definitely going back to Winchell's next time I'm back on the West Coast. Really, you can't go wrong with this style of donut at all. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit it with a like, and if you're subscribed, I'm sure that the Granny's video will show up in your feed. So make sure you hit that button right now. But if you can't wait to see that Granny's Donuts video, click right here, and I'll see you in the next video.